Oh my goodness. Have you ever walked out of a meeting and thought, well, that was fun? I said words, I contributed technically, but I don't think I sounded like a leader. And then you replay it later in your mind, and it's like that movie that you didn't even want to watch. You're thinking, should I have spoken up? Did I talk too much? Did I sound confident? Did I sound annoying? Did I even sound like me? If you've ever searched executive presence for women, how to be taken seriously at work, or how to speak up in meetings, you are not alone. It's one of the top search hits out there right now, which is what we're going to talk about today. Executive presence and the big question behind it. Do I have to act like a leader, or can I be myself? And my answer is yes. You can absolutely be yourself, but you'll want to be yourself with clarity. So let's go. Welcome to the Lead with Spark podcast, the show where real women lead with authenticity, show up with presence, and live out their purpose. I'm Lynsey Mulder, speaker, C-suite executive, family gal, travel junkie, and a firm believer that your leadership starts from within. Around here, we go beyond the fluff. We talk about the real stuff no one teaches you in leadership training. Your values, your superpower strengths, boundaries to stop burnout, and how to quit being the chaos coordinator of your own life. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, or just trying to stop feeling stuck in the daily grind, this is your space to get clear, get aligned, and finally lead with confidence. So let's cut the noise and reconnect with the spark that makes you, you. Let's go get our spark on. All right, friend, welcome back. Wherever you're listening from today, whether it's in the car, on a walk, folding laundry, or sitting in your office parking lot because you just need 5 minutes of quiet, I want you to feel like I'm talking straight to you. Because I know executive presence has become this weird, mysterious thing. Like it's a special ingredient that only shows up once you hit a certain title. And until then, you're just supposed to fake it and hope that no one notices. I have led huge teams. I sat in rooms where decisions were made really fast, and I've watched people with that presence walk in. And here's what I can tell you. Executive presence is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's absolutely not about being the most polished person in the room, and it's definitely not about being the coldest person in the room. Executive presence is all about trust. And today we're going to pull this topic out of the corporate fog and make it usable in real life, especially if you're trying to build confidence in those meetings that you're in, and you want to be able to speak up without overthinking and yet still feel like your authentic self. We're going to do it with a twist, though. I want to play Two Truths and a Lie, the executive present edition. And I want to play it simply because I love that game. So, okay, here we go. 3 statements. 2 are true and 1 is a lie. See if you can figure it out. Statement number 1. Executive presence means you need to be the loudest person in the room. Statement number 2, executive presence is built through clarity, not charisma. And statement number 3, executive presence means you can't be warm, fun, or relatable if you want to be taken seriously. All right, which one's the lie? I feel like I made it kind of easy. If you picked number 1, you're right. And number 3 is also a lie, which means I just turned 2 truths and a lie into 2 lies and a truth, which honestly feels like a pretty accurate description of workplace advice sometimes. Let me say this clearly. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room to have presence, and you do not need to be that cold person in the corner to be credible. You can be authentic and still have executive presence. But, and this is the part that women don't always get coached on, authenticity doesn't mean unfiltered. Authenticity means aligned with your message, aligned with your values, aligned with what you're trying to create in the room, whether that be culture or agreement or strategy, whatever it is aligned. Let me tell you about a moment that happened to me, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was walking into my first meeting on a new executive team. There was 8 of us total in the room. Right outside the door, a woman stopped me and she introduced herself and said, "Hi, I'm the only other female on the executive team, so I bet you can guess my name." Now, if she would have said it like, "Hey, so glad you're here. We've got each other," that would have felt really empowering. But the way that she said it didn't feel empowering to me at all. It felt like a warning, like we are set apart, like we were somehow different, like we weren't fully part of the group. And I walked into that meeting with that sitting right on my shoulders, weighing me down. It was my first time with this team, so everybody was introducing themselves and there were inside jokes flying around the room all over. You know those moments where you can tell that people have history and you're the new one in the room trying to figure out the rhythm and who to connect with? Because of what she said to me, I started second guessing everything. I was sitting there looking around thinking, should I speak up? Do I offer strategic direction? I mean, that's my title. It's what I'm here for. Do I ask questions or do I just sit back and listen? Are they going to judge me differently? Do I need to prove myself or protect myself? Why did she point out that she was the only other woman? That comment didn't just set us apart. It made me question my right to fully participate in the meeting and actually for months thereafter. And here's why I'm telling you this story. Because executive presence is not just what you say, it's what you believe you're allowed to say. And a lot of women walk into rooms already carrying invisible doubts in our mind. They're those invisible rules and that invisible pressure that we put on ourselves. So if you have ever been in a meeting and suddenly felt smaller, even though you're qualified, even though you belong there, it makes sense. But you don't have to stay there. Here's the definition that I want you to hold on to. Executive presence is the ability to create trust quickly. When people say, "Ooh, she has presence," what they're really saying is, I trust her. I trust her thinking. I trust her judgment. I trust her decisions. I trust her communication. And trust gets built in 3 very human ways. It gets built through clarity. It gets built through a calm confidence that you're bringing into the room. It gets built through consistency in your messaging, in your actions, in what you're trusting the team to do. And no, that doesn't mean that you have to become somebody else. What it does mean is that you stop shrinking the message that you already have. So let's start with clarity. Because if you want to know how to speak up in meetings, clarity is the fastest way to feel more confident. A lot of women communicate like they're trying to make everyone comfortable before they make their point. So we lead with context, and then we give a little bit more context, and then we add background on top of that context, and then maybe there's a disclaimer or that subtle apology. And by the time that we get to what we actually meant, the moment has passed. And this is where executive presence gets mislabeled as confidence. It's not confidence, it's structure. Here's what I mean. Instead of walking the room through your whole thought process, lead with your point. Say the point first, then give a short reason, then say what you need. It can sound like, here's what I recommend, or here's the risk I see, or here's what I think we should do next. And then you add just enough context so that they understand, and you end with a clean ask. Hey, here's what I need you to decide, or here's what the next step is. When you do that, something powerful happens. People start to relax because clarity actually calms people down, and that calmness creates trust, and the trust is executive presence. Don't worry, if they have questions, they're going to ask you. You've now opened up the floor so that they feel like they can participate. And if you want proof that clarity prevents chaos, let me take you out of the boardroom and into real life. We were traveling to Europe, and one of our son's friends was with us. This story still makes me laugh. We were sitting in an area, it was kind of near security, waiting for our flight. We had already checked in, so already through security and sitting there with our luggage. And my son's friend jumps up and says, "Hey, I'm going to go grab a Gatorade. I'll be right back." Sounds completely normal, right? So my son and I wait, and we wait, and it starts to feel like right back is having a little identity crisis. So I look at my son and I'm like, hey, do you think we should check on him? Do we need to make sure that he's okay? So he tried calling his friend, and that's when we realized that his friend's phone was sitting right next to him. He had forgotten to take it. Okay, so now, as a mom in charge of someone else's kid, I have officially entered the part of the story where I am no longer calm. I am starting to panic a little bit. I said, do you remember where the Gatorade was at? And he said, no, but I know the direction that he was walking and what we saw, so I'll go try to find him. So he takes off down the corridor to find him. And as my son is walking, he passes the security entrance that we came in. You know what I'm talking about, where you stand in line forever, you get your ID checked, you go through security, you take off your shoes and your belt if you don't have TSA pre-check. Like, you know, the long line where everyone is standing. Well, fortunately, his friend is like 6'6" tall, this huge kid who's got red hair. And my son sees him on the other side of security, jumping up and down, waving his arms and yelling his name. Here's what happened. His friend did not realize that if you leave that security area, you need your passport and documentation to get back in. He didn't have his phone, he didn't have his passport, and he didn't remember our phone numbers to borrow a phone to call us. So he was stuck on the other side. We were stuck. Everyone was suddenly very aware that the "I will be right back" was not the clarity that we thought that we all had. My son came running back to me, grabs his friend's passport, and then literally had to hand it through all of the security guards so that his friend could get back. And the really funny part is he couldn't bring the Gatorade back with him. He had to chug it on that side of security. But here's the lesson that was so clear. There were signs everywhere, big signs, obvious signs that said, do not pass here, you can't come back in. But when he was focused on one thing, I'm just grabbing a Gatorade, then you don't see the signs that are all around you. And that's what happens in our work settings too. We assume people understand the context. We assume that they see the great big signs. We assume our meaning in the conversation is obvious. But if your message isn't clear, you create confusion without meaning to. Clarity prevents that chaos. And that's whether it is in an airport or it's in your meeting. I want to talk now about that calm confidence, because this is where women get tripped up by imposter syndrome. If you've ever searched imposter syndrome at work, that's usually because you've had the moment where your brain says, don't speak, don't say the wrong thing, let somebody else go first. Here's the truth. Confidence is not a personality trait. Confidence is a willingness to be seen. You don't have to walk into the room feeling fearless. You just need to contribute like you belong there. And one of the easiest ways to do that, even when you're feeling nervous, is to ask really strong, curious questions. Because those questions guide the room. They show people that you're thinking beyond the task and the immediate conversation. You are thinking about the outcomes that are going to take place. You can ask things like, what does success look like here? What's the risk that we're accepting if we move forward? Is this truly our priority? What needs to be true for this to work? Those types of questions don't require performance. They are demonstrating your leadership. And I want to share a coaching moment. I was working with a senior executive who was extremely frustrated with her team. She came to me with a story about what had happened, and as she was telling me this story, everything was from her viewpoint, her perceptions, her assumptions, her intent, her frustration. And I gently challenged her. I said, okay, I hear you, but let's pause for just a second. If you were on the other side of this, what might you be experiencing? And at first she resisted, because when we're frustrated, we want to be right. We don't want to be reflective. But as I kept challenging her and she was pausing to think about it, something shifted. It dawned on her that she had only been thinking about her viewpoint. She hadn't considered the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty her team might be feeling. She hadn't considered how her communication, even unintentional communication, could be landing as pressure or threat. And when we reframed it and let her see it from both perspectives, everything changed. Not just for that situation, but for her leadership as a whole. Because that is executive presence too. Executive presence isn't just speaking with clarity, it's leading with awareness. It's being able to walk into a moment and ask, what is it like on the other side of me? That skill alone will change your leadership for the rest of your life. And it will change how people experience you. Because your team feels safe when they trust you. And when they trust you, you know that you have executive presence. Okay, let's come all the way back to the original question. Do you have to act like a leader? No. Here are the myths that I want you to let go of. You don't need to be loudest to be respected. You need to be clear. You don't need to be the coolest person in the room to be credible. You need to be grounded. You don't need perfect words to get your message across, but you do need to have a willingness to speak up. And if you want a simple phrase that helps you step into clarity without feeling like you're turning into a different person, simply try this. I want to be respectful of time, so I will be direct. That sentence is magic. It gives you permission to be clear. It signals leadership, and it sounds like a real human. Let's make this practical. In your next meeting, I want you to pick a moment, just one, where you normally would have softened, apologized, or stayed quiet, and instead try one small shift. Lead with your point, or ask a really strong, curious question, or say, hey, here's what I recommend. Do it just once, because executive presence isn't built in this huge, complete makeover. It's built in practice, one meeting at a time, one sentence at a time. Friend, you do not have to act like a leader. You're already one in many different areas of your life. Executive presence isn't pretending. It's communicating like you trust yourself. So if you've been minimizing your voice or waiting until you feel 100% ready, let this be your reminder. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be clear. And you can do it while you're still being fully your authentic self. If this episode helped you, send it to another woman who's brilliant, but keeps shrinking her message too. I'll talk to you next time. Lead with Spark. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for being here and for doing the work to lead yourself first. If this episode sparked something for you, take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with another woman who's ready to own her leadership. And remember, the way you lead your life is the way you lead everything else. If you or your organization are looking for a speaker, an impactful workshop, or an executive coach, head over to lynseymoulder.com and let's connect. Keep showing up. Keep leading with Spark. You got this. I'll see you next time.